Hi, I'm Pat Murphy. I'm the creator of Echoes of the Triumphant, and you're listening to the True North Country Comics podcast.
Welcome to the True North Country Comics podcast, dedicated to promote Canadian comic book and graphic novel creators and supporters. I'm John Swinimer. If you want to drop me a line, you can contact me at john@truenorthcountrycomics.com. On this episode, I chat with Patrick Murphy about issue 3 of his series Echoes of the Triumphant. This podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. If you want to help the site and the podcast, please consider supporting the effort by chipping in at ko-fi.com/truenorthcountrycomics. Your patronage is greatly appreciated. Patrick is based in Ottawa, Ontario. After he graduated from the University of Ottawa, he decided it was time to roll up his sleeves and deliver the most kick-ass comic book series of all time. Echoes of the Triumphant is Patrick's love letter to his lifelong obsession with superheroes and all the weird directions he wanted to take the franchise. As a writer on the latest issue, Patrick is joined by editor Alexei Kot, designer Dominic Bercier, cover artist Greg Ronachek, artist inker color Gerard Bazina, and letterer Michael McAdams. Echoes of the Triumphant is a 28-page, fully colored comic book to an ongoing series that mixes the genres of science fiction and crime dramas by creating a kick-ass thriller. The story takes place in the vibrant and semi-futuristic year of 2035, in the not-so-shy fictional streets of Echo City. The protagonist, Adrian Avery, is a forensic accountant who chases down money trails. He needs to find Lionheart, the leader of a tweak extremist group, before he creates chaos in the streets of Echo City. Plus, he likes to punch people a lot. And so, without further ado, here's my chat with Patrick Murphy about Echoes of the Triumphant. So, Patrick Murphy, thank you very much for taking time to chat with me.
Thank you very much for having me.
I appreciate your time. Before we get started with all the questions, though, I want to ask you, what was the first comic book that you read?
The very first comic that I read was a Wolverine Origins comic. So yeah, I really got into the whole comics world through the X-Men, and that was my first passion. I just thought they were really cool and really interesting, and then eventually it was Daredevil, and then there's the rest of the Marvel comics and the rest of the DC comics, and yeah, so it really started with the X-Men.
Cool. Yeah, good stuff to start with, but I'm wondering who or what inspires you to create today?
I'd say Frank Miller. I was really inspired by The Dark Knight Returns. I thought that was a piece of literature. It's just a really cool and awesome story about a Randian hero. So just an individual going about his or her moral pursuit against the collectivist tide. And, those stories are really amazing and really epic. And that's when I really said to myself, okay, comics can be taken really seriously. So just what an epic story. Him just being in his 60s and just still going at it and just actually having all these triumphs. I just think it's an amazing story.
Sure. And he started his own publishing company now too, which is pretty amazing.
I didn't know about that.
Well, we're here talking about your latest issue of your comic book series called Echoes of the Triumphant. So for those not familiar with it, perhaps you could talk a wee bit about the story and maybe what inspired you to create it.
I really wanted to take a grounded approach to this story. So I wanted it to be as grounded as it possibly could. So basically, a law has been passed by the government where it's basically legal to just keep an eye on these people. And so, there's a lot of people feel as if, their rights have been taken away from them, opportunities have been taken away from them. And, there's obviously people who oppose these sort of politics and all that sort of stuff. So there's a rebel gang of these superhumans, and they want their own sense of order. And there's just this clash within Echo City. And the main character, Adrian Avery, he's just in the middle of everything, and he's just trying to keep peace within the city.
And what inspired you to create the story? Was it just over the time of reading other comic books that this was germinating and you said that this is the story I have to tell?
I'd say so. I mean, I really love grounded and nitty gritty stuff. I'm a huge fan of David Mamet's work. Like, I don't know if you've heard of Glenn Ross or like
Absolutely,
Edmund,
yes.
but yeah, it's really awesome. And he just like I'm just addicted to that dialogue, and I'm addicted to like watching things where it's kind of like a dog eat dog sort of world, and people are oftentimes put in like difficult situations where they kind of have to like sacrifice their moral integrity in order to like do something good or like to survive or something like that. I think that's really cool, and I think that's a really interesting way to like figure out people and figure out like the human conditions. And David Mamet's work is what really inspired me, and like I said earlier, Frank Miller's work really inspired me. Like Daredevil is really, really awesome. I just When it comes to a character like Daredevil, you always just feel like the hits and blows that he takes as both like a lawyer and a superhero. So he's not like Spider-Man or Superman where he gets hit and he just picks himself back up just like that. Like you just really feel like the grueling pain that he goes through. So I'd say like the grounded and gritty stories are what really inspired me to do this.
Good stuff. Now, you are the writer and creator of this book, but I'm wondering who is helping you with it? Who are the collaborators you have on board for this book?
I have a lot of people helping me. Jared Bazena is the artist. He's a young guy like me. We both started this project in our early 20s. We figured out a bunch of stuff on our own. We made a bunch of mistakes, but we're moving forward and we're getting better and better like as each and every day goes by. So I really recommend that people check out his work. Alexi Cott helped me edit the story. So yeah, like writers oftentimes get tunnel vision, and it's just really helpful to have like a second opinion. Dominic Bercier helped me with, I'd say, like the nitty gritty sort of stuff. Like he helped me with the ISBN codes and like building the credits pages and stuff like that. And Greg Warrenchak helped with the cover, and Michael McAdams helped with the lettering process.
Sounds like a great team. Can you talk a little bit about the collaboration process with your illustrator? Did you have the story all neatly written from start to finish, and you just gave the script and the illustrator went off, or was it a back and forth process?
I'd say it was a back and forth process. So I had a good idea of where to take the story. I figured out pretty early on that you can't like fit too much stuff into one single page of a comic book page. In the first issue of Echoes of the Triumphants, like I definitely made that mistake of like not taking into consideration what my artist can and can't do. Like you can't fit in like 20 panels into one page. So the next issue after that, I slowed things down. I broke everything apart. For the most part, it's there's around like 5 or 6 panels per page now, and so everything's like a lot more digestible. And so I have a good idea of where the story was going, but there was a back and forth in terms of just like just making things digestible, I guess, for each and every comic book page.
Very good. Good to hear. Now, this project is on Kickstarter. It's already started, which is great. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the incentives you have behind this Kickstarter for people who want to sign up and support you.
We have some really awesome rewards that I think everybody should take the time to check out. Of course, we have digital rewards. So once the campaign ends, you'll get Echoes of the Triumphant numbers 1, 2, and 3 emailed directly to you once it's all over. We have print rewards. So I did a couple of Kickstarters before this, and so I really know how to do shipping right now, and so I can get it to everybody like safe and sound. We have this really, really cool reward where if you back it, you get to be featured as some sort of superhuman character in issue number 4. So, for instance, like during the first Kickstarter, a backer backed that reward, and he wanted to have like his own frog superhuman be featured in Echoes of the Triumphant number 3. So we worked that character into the stories. Yeah, people can just like inject themselves into the narrative, so it's a pretty cool thing.
Absolutely. Now, I understand, we're here talking now, and I understand you've been doing some podcast interviews and other interviews. Wondering how else will you be promoting your book? We're finishing up 2022, and certainly the next year is coming around. Do you have any plans to attend any conventions or festivals in the coming year?
I really do want to. However, there's not a lot in my area. I checked. The Ottawa Comic Con isn't really happening right now. Most of the time, the big Comic Cons, they happen during the summer. So I really wish I can go to a convention and just, get to meet everybody. But I don't think I can do it in December or January.
things seem to be winding down right now, but hopefully in the new year and perhaps when the warmer months come along, there might be some opportunities there. That's for sure. You mentioned, hinted about issue number 4. I presume that that's your next big project. I'm wondering, do you have any other up and coming projects that you can talk about?
At the moment, no. What we're currently doing right now is that we're planning on finishing our first arc. Our arc goes from issue number 1 to issue number 4. And so once that's polished and finessed, we'll push it out there for everybody to see. And, I did have this one kind of cool idea. I don't know a good way to describe it. It's basically about, those TV shows where like they hunt ghosts, but it's all fake.
Mm-hmm.
So the gist of the story was that like there's a supernatural threat, and everybody thinks this ghost hunter, who's actually just a con artist, can save the day, but he's really just like a liar and fake. And that's my idea for my next comic book series. So that's the next project I'm going to do after this.
Sounds good. Now, is there a website where you recommend people go to find out about your current and your future work?
We currently have a website, www.reverbcomics.com. So I recommend everybody check that out. I think everybody should really check out the Kickstarter first. The Kickstarter has everything there. And if you want the latest Echoes of the Triumphant goods, I really recommend that you check out the Kickstarter website.
Great. Good. Well, Patrick, those are all the questions I have for you, but I'm wondering, is there something I didn't ask that you'd like to get across in this interview?
I guess the only thing I wanted to mention, we already have a bunch of pages done for issue number 4. If you came across, issues 1, 2, and 3 of Echoes of the Triumphant, we're going to have a really quick turnaround, and we're going to have issue number 4 out there relatively soon. Yeah, I plan to have by like sometime 2023.
Thanks to Patrick for the chat. You can discover more about Patrick on reverbcomics.com. You can discover more about Echoes of the Triumphant on Kickstarter. And thanks to you for listening to the True North Country Comics podcast. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to and like this podcast on Apple Podcasts, and please leave a good rating. Also check out the TrueNorthCountryComics.com website and follow along in Tumblr at True North Country Comics. True North Country Comics is now on YouTube. Please like and subscribe to that video channel and hit the notification button. Please send your feedback to John at TrueNorthCountryComics.com. And if you want to help the site and the podcast, please consider supporting the effort by chipping in at ko-fi.com/True North Country Comics. Your patronage is greatly appreciated. Thanks again for listening, and come back soon for another episode. Bye for now. True North Country Comics Podcast, copyright True North Country Comics, copyright 2022.